Okay, we got the one, the only TJ Pittinger on from Double Fries No Slaw, College Football Addiction, and FSU. I can't say Twitter fame anymore. FSU X fame. Um, so it's probably weird for him that he's in the co-seat tonight, but I wanted to bring him on. I finally met him in person back in Ireland. It had taken a while for it to happen, it seemed like, but we have a few things to talk about tonight. The coaching
Sure.
situation, which I don't know if you saw my other stuff. I was so down on Norvell. I agreed with you on pretty much everything. After North Carolina, I was done with him. But I really like the moves he's made.
Yeah.
But what do you
No,
think?
I appreciate you having me on. And no, I agree. This is the easy seat. You're doing all the work. I'm just here. We're just like we were talking about before. We're just here talking ball, man. Like you're in the tough seat. I'm just getting a chill. So I like it.
Happy to have you here, Chill.
But no, I agree. I think that, I mean, I think he's a good guy and I think he's a great person. And the times that I've gotten to be around him, which are not a ton, but he's been really cool to be around. And I do think that he's ultimately a really good person, but he's not getting paid, a very significant amount of money to just be a good person, right? Like that's what your pastor is getting paid a lot of money to do, right? Like that's, in theory, right? And so he's getting paid to win football games. And at a place like Florida State, 2-10 is not acceptable, right? Like, and we can just call that what it is. Are there reasons for it? Can you kind of understand why some things happen? Sure, but that's still just not acceptable. And so, I was kind of with you for quite a while. Like and I still don't know that it's acceptable. It's still not acceptable, but like I was pretty off the train for that last month of the season. Then you also realize like, hey, this is not going to happen. And so am I just going to be miserable for the next year or more until it does eventually happen or until things get fixed? Or am I just going to say like, hey, well, do the best you can, and I'm going to keep cheering. I'm going to keep rooting. And I agree with you. I like some of the moves that have been made. I don't think every move has been perfect by any means, but I do like a lot of the things that he's done. Yeah. And it gives me at least some hope that things will go back in the right direction or kind of get turned around a little bit. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but I am a little more optimistic than I was for sure.
I mean, if I told you a month ago we're going to get Gus Malzahn, Tony White, and finish with the 19th rated recruiting class, you would have thought I was crazy.
Yeah. The close in recruiting, the hires, I love, we'll talk hires too, but I love the offensive line. I love the defensive line. I think there's a lot of really good things that have happened over the last 3 weeks, or really 2 weeks since the season ended. And it's hard to complain when you see that. 2-10 still happened, but it's time to move on, right? Mike's moved on, the team's moved on, the program's moved on. It's time to start looking at 25.
No, the year's over, and what I like now is, thank God it happened this year if it was going to happen in the NIL portal era. Because college football is like the NFL now. It's year to year. It's not like you had this year 15 years ago. I don't care who you brought in.
You take 5 years to
5-6 years minimum to get back. Mm-hmm. Now we're like the NFL. You get the right free agents, you get the right coaches, and you're back on track.
Yeah, 100%.
If done right, of course.
Yeah.
But people have much more short-term memories now.
Yeah. And I wouldn't predict that we could go 13-0, but if you can go 13-0 to 2-10, you can go right back up to 9-10 wins. I'm not saying that happens. I'm not predicting that. Way too early for me to even think about those kind of things, but it can certainly happen. I mean, Arizona State went from 3 wins to 10 wins. Mm-hmm. You look at teams like
UCF,
who in the Big Ten, Indiana, wildly outperformed expectations. I know that it makes Florida State fans kind of bitter, but Colorado went from 1 win to 4 wins to 10 wins, or 9 wins. You can turn it around pretty quickly. Like this is very, and how did those teams do it? They did it through the portal, right? Like it is very possible to do.
No, I'm all for it. I guess we'll talk about Luke real quickly. I'm not upset. I would have liked to keep him. I just wasn't. Big Noel, who you probably follow too on Twitter, who's usually a troll and pretty funny and very good at it. He had a tweet today that he wasn't trying to troll. And I said, if I could have wrote it in a tweet, I couldn't have said it any better. He said, now it's so nice to recruit a quarterback without having to worry about Luke.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll preface it by saying I like Luke. And I like his family. I like his family a lot. I've interacted with both his mom and dad. They were very loyal. They were there at every game. They were really nice people. They supported what I did, right? Like his dad supported my show. Like they're good people. I have no ill will.
I know they're a better family.
Yeah, they're a great, great family, and they're great people. I don't think Luke showed enough this year, and he may get there. He may end up being elite. I have no idea, but I don't think he showed enough this year to where I'm like devastated. Like he was our guy for the future. Now he might've been in 2 years. He might've gotten there. I have no idea, but I also think Norvell needs to win right now. And I don't know that I was confident that Luke was taking us to 9 wins or 10 wins or something. Now, could Luke have gotten us to 6-6? I do think so, right? But I also think that Castellanos or maybe other guys that may come in, Brock Glenn, could maybe get you to that 6-win mark too. And so does it stink? Yes. I'm not happy about it. I'm not like celebrating that you lost him, but I'm also not just absolutely in shambles. Maybe a good comparison would say, I don't like this team, but if Florida lost DJ Lagway right now, they would, if the same thing happened, they would be in absolute shambles because they're building their entire program around him. Right. And he is their future. And he's also a little more ready to me. I think there's a reason he was the number 3 overall recruit in that class. They would be in shambles. And I think that some Florida State fans kind of feel like that's what happened today. And I just don't. And that's not disrespect to Luke or his family or his camp or anything like that. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not like crying my eyes out. It's like, oh, that stinks. All right, move on.
But I said, I'm going to look at this through the Malzahn goggles, not Norvell. If Norvell was still running the offense, still calling plays, today would have been devastating.
Yeah.
With Gus Malzahn, I don't know if he's a fit for that system.
Yeah.
So he's still a project to begin with. Plus, you're not a fit, maybe. And you know what? I'm glad Mike didn't say, well, I'm not going to take a portal quarterback. I don't want to upset Luke and go back to the old Norvell. We're too loyal.
I think you have to draw a line in the sand and really do what you think is best for not only the program long term, but also like your job security next year. Yeah. Like we all want. Now, I mean, I'll tell you the not the worst thing that could happen, but like the worst thing that could happen is just kind of an uncertainty around like 5-7 or 6-6. And then you don't really know everything's kind of up in the air. But like the worst thing that could happen is with this is you end up going 6-6, now, obviously we've seen that worse can happen, but if you go 4-8 again or less, I mean, you're just going to fire him and move on. So is that really the worst thing that could happen? No, I mean, cause then you just get to hit the reset button, but yeah, I mean, losing the quarterback, to me, it's just not the biggest issue to me. It's, hey, if we've drawn the line in the sand and we've said that this is what we're going to do, then we're going to stick to it. And so I think that, I think that Mike did the right thing ultimately.
No, and Mike cares about the kid. That's the thing.
For sure.
Mike could have gone to Battle's End and said, we have to keep him at all costs, which he's done before, and it's burned him.
For sure.
I don't think he could again. Like when you talked about Lagway just now, let's say Lagway had internally it suggested, I'm going to leave. That collective would have garnered more money than you can imagine to keep him.
They would have paid every bit of money.
Right.
And probably rightfully so. Like if Lagway was to leave their class, he's more ready. Their class probably falls apart. You've got other kids that immediately, and I'm not saying that there won't be any Florida State fallout from this too. It wouldn't surprise. Luke is very well liked. So it won't surprise me if a couple other guys jump in the portal too, because they liked Luke. If Lagway left, most of their elite talent would leave too. They're there because he's there. They're there because they think he's got a chance to be a Heisman type quarterback and really like be a first round pick and all these other things. And guys want to play with that. I don't know Luke's status was there yet. Now, maybe in 2 years it is. I don't know. But it would be detrimental. And so UF would have paid if Lagway came to them and said, hey, I need $5 million, I think they'd be like, somebody go shake out the couch cushions because we're finding that money.
Oh, yeah. If he said, for example, Ohio State's offering me $5 million, he would have had 6 there.
They'd figure it out.
They didn't lose Trevor Etienne because of money.
Right.
He left because of opportunity. But no, I hear you. That's why, I mean, Luke's a great kid. I'm sure he did not want to do this deep down.
Yeah.
And someone just commented, was the Charles Lester comment defending Luke Grill? Yeah, I saw it on Instagram. I don't know if you saw it, TJ.
Yeah.
Just basically said he goes, it's a lie that he was offered 7 figures or requested that.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to defend their guys. Whether it's hard to know what was really happening in those conversations, or what was offered, what was asked for, what an agent asked for, what a camp asked for, what a kid asks for, what happens with the actual meeting with Norvell. Or there's a lot of conversation that happens around these negotiations. It's not just me and you sitting in a room, right? And so I don't know. The truth is probably and almost always is somewhere in the middle of all of it. But that's still his guy, right? Luke showed up when he committed. Luke was there and drove down from Savannah, Georgia, like drove his car down from Savannah, Georgia, down to Naples, Florida, to be there when Charles Lester committed. And all the smoke around, could he go to Colorado? Could he go with Dion? Could he do this? Could he end up at Florida? All these wild scenarios. Luke was still there in his corner the entire time. And so, yeah, I think they're close. I mean, I think Cam Davis is super close to him. I'm not telling you that either one of those guys are going to jump in the portal or hate Mike Norvell, because I think kids understand it's a business decision too. But I would hope he would defend him because they've been boys for a while.
Yeah, listen, I said to a lot of people, we're 2-10. I don't care who leaves at this point. If we can get better players and not go through this again. I said, I'm willing to risk Luke to go in the portal and get somebody who can come in and play right away. Yeah. I think Castellanos fits what Gus wants. And Mike has to listen to him more now.
For sure. Yeah, they're paying him a lot of money. Yeah, they're paying him a lot of money. He's not just Gus is not just there to look cool on the sidelines or wear a sweater vest or a visor. Like he's there to have input and help turn this thing around. And it sucks, but you got to listen to him. You got to stay.
He's not here to like you said, to do that. And we talk about Norvell has to win right now. Gus ain't here for a long-term project either.
Right.
He's going to be 60. He wants to compete at the highest level right now.
Yep.
So he has to tell Mike, this is the type of quarterback I need.
Yeah.
Mike has to go with that, or he wouldn't have come here.
Right. You got to give him some kind of control too. So I agree with that completely.
Right. That's why I am so curious above everything when I hear practice reports and how different the practices are run.
Yeah.
I know I'm jumping ahead to things, but that's what I want to hear about, because I didn't love how they were run before. And I'm not trying to jump on them because we're 2-10. I said a lot of this stuff when we were winning. I think we just got away with a lot of stuff last year.
Yeah.
Not to knock them, but that's what I want to hear, because I think Tony White and Gus Malzahn are going to bring in a new attitude.
A little bit different focus. Yeah, I think they I think you're right on that. And just, some I've heard some similar things just on practice and stuff. I think that they got in a situation where in 2021 and 22, you were able to really have that locked in, focused mentality of just like, hey, we're going to bust it and grind. And then in 23, you had so many guys that you already kind of knew what you were getting out of them. Jared Verse, Keon Coleman, Jordan Travis, Trey Benson, Johnny Wilson. You had so many guys that you knew those guys didn't need to go out and kill themselves in practice every day. Right. You needed to protect them. And so I think they ran practice a little bit more like NFL stuff, NFL preseason, NFL, just protecting guys' health and also like just make it a little easier on you. Hey, you're going to come here. You're going to win a lot of games. Your body's going to be ready for the NFL. You're going to go to the NFL. You're going to have a lot of tread on the tires. And since they did that in 23, it was hard. I think it was hard to turn that off in 24. It's hard to get all those guys who were there in 23, who were the Farmers and the Paytons and the Washingtons and the Tophillies and just the guys that were there. It's hard to then go back to them in 24 and say like, all right, guys, we're turning the lights back on. We're going to make this tough on you again. Cause I'd be like, no, I want it easy. Like we had it last year or whatever. But
one thing, once you dangle the carrot,
it's hard to put it back in the box.
You can't just go back and say,
but now with the new staff, and purging a lot of those guys from the roster, whether they're going to the NFL or the portal or just wherever they're moving on, however, now with the new staff, I think you can do it. I think you can say, this is the way we're doing things. We're getting back to the basics. We're doing this the right way. So I agree with you. I don't love the way that practice has been the last couple of years. And I do think it'll be better.
Do you think, I know Norvell's the head guy, obviously. Do you think he's going to keep the media a little further away than the past? Still leave practice open? I mean, I know it's not going to win or lose a game. I get it. But I know a lot of fans that hate that we're the only team that allows full access.
Yeah. I mean, Norvell's always been pretty open. And I think closing it would it's almost like you just said, like with the, putting it back in the box or whatever, like does closing it also kind of look bad that, from certain perspectives. I do think he has a pretty good relationship with the media.
Very good.
Would be my guess. And so I think that there are certain benefits of him keeping things pretty open. And I think the trust that he's built with them will probably continue that. Yeah. So to answer your question, I think I'd be pretty surprised if he changed that philosophy up. I think that's just kind of who he is being a little more open with stuff like that. So I think he'll kind of leave it the same. If I had to guess.
Wondered, I mean, you were a great person to ask this. I've always wondered that if him giving them full access leads to less speculation from the media when they're talking about things and potential leaks that may or may not be true. Where he's like, here it is, you see it, just don't talk about it.
For sure. Yeah, especially, and I've talked with some of the guys that go to practice every day and are on the beat and stuff. And they say, like, look, there's really nothing that they tell us we can't report on. The injuries are a big deal. And then obviously like specific play packages, like, they're not dumb, right? Like, hey, on third down, they like to run that,
Yeah, right.
So, but if you do that, then yeah, you're getting booted. The injuries are a big deal. And Norvell sees that. I wish Norvell was a little more open on injuries. Again,
he's worse than Jimbo.
Yeah, it's terrible.
It's
KGB, and it's somewhat meaningless too. Like, I like the rule that the SEC has put in, where you just have to tell your injuries because, like,
the gambling, right?
And as much as I'm not trying to give UF any credit here, but like Napier literally just comes out like right in the press conference and says, like, yeah, this guy's knee is messed up. He's not playing for the rest of the year. I'm just like, that. Thank you, because we all saw it on live TV. Right. Like, just you don't need to tell us this 6 weeks later and tell us like,
it doesn't help.
And so I don't know, but yeah, I think that it's a little bit of a benefit to Norvell to do that, because if an injury happens in practice, it always gets out. It always leaks. And so if you have your media basically kind of quiet about it and not say anything about it, then you know that they're not the ones that are going to leak it. You know that they're not the ones that are going to put it out, because they would find out from inside the program anyway if they weren't at practice.
Right. And then they don't feel bad reporting it.
For sure.
Because it's like, you don't know who told me, and
yeah, they would report on every single one of them.
And they did in the past. But with Jimbo, he was secretive until I think the Thursday before the game.
Yeah.
He was secretive. I mean, you couldn't get anything. And then Thursday, he'd pull out that paper.
Tell
this guy, yes. This guy, no. This guy, yes.
Yep.
I was fine with that. At least I knew by Thursday. And then Jimbo probably figured, all right, by Thursday,
it's going to be out anyway.
It's going to be out anyway. And if they've game planned for that person or not, it's not going to really change much in one day.
Right.
Mike is to the second, like the whole year. Finally, like week 10 or 11, it's like, okay, this guy's redshirting because he's had an ankle issue. It's like,
been hurt all year, and I just didn't want to tell you.
Yeah. Because I remember that day in Jacksonville when he was furious.
Yeah.
Before last season. But anyway, moving on. Thanks for your insight there. We talked about the coaches. I'm excited. We talked about that. I just want to get your opinion on the portal. I know a lot of unknowns. I'm looking at 30 to 40 new guys. I'm not asking who you think we're going to get, because we don't really know, in Castellanos maybe. What do you think we're looking at roster-wise for next year? Is it like Florida State Newinals?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're going to retain quite a few. But yeah, you're going to have a lot of new pieces on this roster. I think you could see anywhere from, just position by position. Obviously, you may have a new starting quarterback with Castellanos coming in, or maybe somebody else if they bring in two, or if that doesn't work out or whatever. And maybe Brock Glenn wins a competition. I don't know. But you probably will have a new starting quarterback, certainly a new starting quarterback than you had in Dublin, right? Mm-hmm. And so running back, I feel like they feel pretty solid on. But if a really good running back popped up in the portal, they will go get him. Right? Like they will try to make a play there. Tight end, I think you feel pretty confident in. Wide receiver, Hakeem's going to be back. I think Elijah Moore and Lewayne McCoy are guys that you would imagine are back and are part of this roster next year. But it wouldn't surprise me to have a new starter or two at wide receiver. It wouldn't surprise me to have anywhere from 2 to 3 new starters at offensive line. I think at defensive line, you could have 3 new starters. You will, because Peyton, Farmer, and
it's a 3-3-5.
Yeah. Linebacker, you're going to have 2 new starters. Defensive backs are going to have 2 new starters. So yeah, you'll have, but I mean, a lot of your depth is going to be the same. And I agree with you. I don't know what the number is going to be. Recruiting class plus portal, it'll certainly be 40 plus. Portal alone, I don't know. I could see anywhere from 20 to 25 kids, because you got to fill out a roster. You got to find a way to get up to whatever that number is, right? 100, 85 or 105, based on what Florida State's going to do. Right? But yeah, you're going to have to find enough guys. And so, yeah, I think there's going to be quite a few that are brand new on this team.
Because I heard with the coaching setup now, like, for example, Possibly, and I'm not saying it's definitely happening. Is like Gus Malzahn. I heard he might not even coach a position.
I think that's true. I think
Yeah.
he'll just focus on the offense,
which is great.
I agree.
But then again, I'll say it. I'm not thrilled with our quarterback coach right now. Everyone wants to blame Mike for all this portal stuff. There's a lot of stuff with him too. Something had to go. I heard he's good at getting in the door, and then that's when it's over.
Yeah,
are we done with coaching changes? Do you think?
I mean, they certainly need to hire a wide receiver coach, and then they need to announce a linebacker coach, whether that's just keeping Sims on to have that position or whatever. I mean, I kind of agree with your sentiment on quarterback. I mean, outside of Jordan Travis, who was here when this staff got here, what has this staff done with quarterback? Well, they're either all in the portal or they're all not very good, right? Brock Glenn's maybe the one that's like to be determined, and I don't think a lot of people are sold there. And so, you look at Chubba Purdy and now Luke Kromenhoek, and, you brought in Milton, you brought in Uyunglele. You've had a lot of guys that, Tate Rodemaker didn't work out. AJ Duffy didn't work out. And so you've just had a lot of guys that have come in. And that's not even talking about the recruiting failures you've had. Tremel Jones flipping to Florida, or Chris Parson flipping to Mississippi State. The quarterback at Florida State has been an absolute nightmare. Now, Jordan Travis was here for 3 years and covered, 4 years of Mike's time, but Jordan Travis covered a lot of that up, and you were winning games, so you didn't really care. But behind the scenes, quarterback was just an absolute disaster behind the scenes. And we may think the staff was right about moving on from Luke or letting Luke go, but it's still a disaster. It's still not good. It's still ultimately it's another, whatever you call it, like strike against quarterback, recruiting and retention.
On paper, okay, roster wise, game wise, it's okay. PR wise, it's not good.
Nightmare. Yeah. Yeah. If you're a high school recruit,
and you have to keep saying, why are you losing these guys? Why?
Yeah. If you're a high school recruit that's a quarterback, why are you going to Florida State right now?
Exactly.
That's a tough sell right now. Like, if I'm negatively recruiting Florida State, which coaches certainly are, I'm saying, dude, why would you go there? They can't hold on to anybody. They can't develop anybody. Everybody either ends up in the portal or busting out. Like, why would you go there? So yeah, that's something that Norvell's going to have to overcome. And, we'll see what happens with this year, but if it doesn't work out this year, even if it does work out this year, you're doing it with a transfer, right? You're still not doing it with a high school kid, unless maybe Brock wins out a job or something like that. But you're doing it with a transfer too. And so I don't think that really helps you with the high school ranks.
No, it doesn't. And I'm not saying Lou's family asked for more money. I don't know. I wasn't there. But I'm sure part of his dad's thinking might have been, if he did, was my kid got his brain speed in last year and he wasn't supposed to play. We want to be compensated.
Sure.
And we saw him be the starter. We want to be treated like a star. I get it. That's why if he leaves somewhere, I think he's going to look for a system. I don't think it's NIL back. I really don't, now the more that I think about it. Because that kid's very humble, man.
Yeah.
To get him to leave, I mean, he led the recruiting class. He spearheaded that class. And I remember he did an interview where he said, me and Cam Davis are making sure everyone's not NIL driven.
Yeah. Here for the right reasons, loyal, all those things. And so, yeah, I mean, but you're right. Like, money is going to play into everything, right? And that's always going to be in the background or somewhere in the mix. But yeah, like, at the end of the day, if the system isn't right, if the system doesn't fit, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to stay, even if they are paying you a lot of money. Because, these guys' ultimate goal is not to make several $100,000 in college football. It's to make millions in the pros.
And he didn't sign here to play for Gus.
Right.
So you have to take the good with the bad.
Yeah.
That's why I have. Excuse me. We covered recruiting a little, covered portal talk, I think. What positions are you zeroing in? I know we talked about where you thought you'd see the most trends. What positions are you zeroing in the most after quarterback, obviously, in the portal? That Florida State really has to nail it.
Yeah, offensive line's the biggest to me, and it's not even close. I feel fairly confident with some of the young talent at running back, wide receiver, tight end. I like some of the young talent in the secondary and even the developed talent in the secondary, trying to think through. I like some of the young talent at linebacker. I think they'll do a good job bringing in some Nebraska guys at both linebacker and defensive line now that they've got Knighton and White. But offensive line scares the crap out of me. I think we make such a big deal about Luke or Castellanos or Brock or this guy or that guy, with an average offensive line, just average. Like Florida State was run blocking in the 90s, pass blocking in the 110s. Like it was terrible. Bottom of the Power Four, right? 90 and 110 out of 134 schools. If you were just in the 50s, you probably make a bowl this year. Like you probably beat Georgia Tech. You probably split with like Memphis and Boston College. You beat Duke, and you find one more win somewhere. But obviously they didn't have that. They were terrible on the offensive line, and that kept the offense from literally doing anything. I mean, shoot, if you have a decent offensive line, you might beat Florida to end the year. And so, yeah, to me, it's all
3 or 4 balls this year in 30 games.
If you have an offensive line, if you can fix that, to me, that takes Florida State from a 5-win team next year up to like 7-8. Like to me, that's a 2 to 3 game improvement. If you can just get average offensive line play, it doesn't need to be elite, just average would be fine.
No, and defensive line, I think we need to.
Yeah, for sure. That's my second. Like offensive line, defensive line are 2. The offensive line to me, I just have, because I think defensive line, I don't have a list of names or anything, but I do think they pull a couple of Nebraska kids. I think they do a good job, get a tackle or 2 as well. And I think they do a good job on the defensive line. The offensive line is where it's tougher, because are you pulling? It's easy to pull.
They don't really enter the portal to start offensive linemen.
Yeah, it's tough to find them. Yeah. And so what are you able to hodgepodge together with guys on the roster, guys that are coming in, new guys, what are you able to kind of develop there to make that unit go? And that's the biggest question mark to me. That might even be bigger than quarterback. I don't, with a bad offensive, if the offensive line is as bad next year as it was this year, it doesn't matter if it's Thomas Castellanos or Luke Kromenhoek or Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Like the offensive line would keep them from doing anything. And so, to me, that's where I am most concerned is offensive line, even more than, like I said, quarterback or anything else.
I don't think people realize how big it would be to get those Nebraska kids because listen, Tony White and Terrence Knight and Evan Cooper can explain it to them so much, and I'm sure they'll do a great job of it because I really like those coaches. But to have your peers, someone you're standing next to, who's been with them and in the locker room with you now, explaining it to you on a daily basis and what's expected there from them and what their standard is, you can't put a price tag on that.
Yeah.
I mean, Indiana's the perfect example this year. I mean, he said, let me just get some of my guys from James Madison so they know what to do and we can hit the ground running.
Yep.
I think Tony learned from that.
Yeah. And I think that just that camaraderie, not having to re-explain yourself to everybody, having some guys that come in as leaders,
right,
is a big deal. And so, yeah, I'm in complete agreement there. I think it'll help a ton.
That's what I'm all for that. So I think tomorrow they're doing a press conference, just so you know.
Yeah, the welcome stuff, like the intros and stuff.
They get the generic,
But they should be fun. I'll listen. I'm back into it.
It help. You try to. I always try to. I don't know how you do it. I always try to find 2 or 3 things that I can hang my hat and go.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I still remember them from Willie's. I still remember them from Jimbo's first press conference. Still remember them from Mike's. Anybody they've hired since. I always try to find 2 or 3 things.
Yeah, things you can relate with, things that excite you.
Yeah.
Shoot, on all sides, things you're concerned about, like, hey, we need to overcome this. We need to do, like Herb Hand's job is not easy. Like rebuilding this offensive line is not easy by any means. So I want to hear them. I want to hear all of it.
They'll give them talking points of like, hey, hit this because people really are concerned about this. I Mike's energetic by nature, but I always said that 2019 press conference with him, they wanted it even more so because we were so used to really talking like this. They wanted Mike to really, and then they had Mario talking Spanish at his press conference. Yeah,
they understand.
They always ripped Manny for never talking Spanish because he didn't know it.
Yeah,
so it's a lot of politics there. I get it, but we talked about the coaches. We talked about Portal. Anything you want to talk about? Not to put you on the spot or anything.
I don't know, man. You made me do the easy. I was in the.
I know. I kind of threw you out there. I'm just kidding.
I think this is good. I think pretty all encompassing. Again, it's going to be. I think the program's in a better place certainly right now than it was a month ago. Obviously it feels like it's trending back in the right direction. Yeah. Will it get there? I don't know. I don't think I'm not sold on saying like, oh, we are beyond a shadow of a doubt. We have this thing figured out, but. You're more optimistic today than you were a month ago, right? And so if we can continue that momentum, do well here in the portal, and then have a really successful, February through August and February through July, right, and get to fall camp, we'll see what happens with Bama week 1, man. I'm excited for it. You be there? You coming?
That's the plan.
Yeah,
That's the plan. I'll be
it's
there.
gonna be fun.
That's the plan. We'll see. Because I was actually at University of Alabama last week for a day, part of a day.
Nice.
Just saw a little of the stadium, little of the area. It reminded me of Florida State a little bit.
But yeah, I was up there in early October for the Georgia game.
But after Ohio State and seeing Bama, you realize real quickly that we haven't been playing that long.
Yeah,
we're like one of the babies compared to these programs.
Yeah, just their whole cities, the way the cities are built around it.
Oh,
because Florida State is so new, like you just said, that and the city in Tallahassee is very much built around Florida State too. I'm not trying to take away from that, but just in Tuscaloosa, like the bars have been knocked down and rebuilt, like with an Alabama focus, because it's been there for over 100 years. Those bars aren't that, and so it's what Florida State is going to look like in 30 years, 40 years.
Right, exactly. Like Ohio State, you felt that a little bit, like walking in the stadium.
Yeah,
but Bama's of course like the Taj Mahal now when you walk up.
Yeah,
like it blows your mind. But just even like Florida State's finally caught on to the Madison social area.
Yeah, College Town and hyping that up and stuff like that, which is awesome. It's awesome.
I met the guy from Corby's at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
that's where Rudy was filmed, and he couldn't believe that when I was a student there, that we didn't have like bars walking distance.
Yeah, nothing.
He goes, "You got to be kidding me!" Like he was stunned, and I said no, and Jimbo Fisher wasn't thrilled when we were getting College Town because he was afraid it was going to take away from his football budget, and he goes, "You got to be kidding me!" Because he's a Notre Dame guy, and he's like, "You already have the most beautiful women, you already have the best weather. Now you're worried about that?" Like, it was great.
That's incredible.
It was a great line, but people were shocked when I told them that.
Yeah,
and that's like what I've tried to do in my vlogs is show like the bars around the stadium, so you know where to go on game day.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, but PJ, thank you for your time. Anything you want to add? I want to promote Double Fries No Slaw. Let me get this up here. And College Football Addicts.
Yeah. No, I just appreciate you, man. Appreciate the time. Like I said, this felt like if you'd have just called me tonight, this would have been the same thing. We just talked on the phone. And so this is awesome. I enjoy talking ball, and I've enjoyed watching your channel, and it was awesome to meet you in Dublin. That was the last time that I was actually happy about football, was in Dublin before the game. But no, this is awesome. I appreciate you for having me, man.
No, I appreciate you coming on. Hope to have you on again. Man, it's funny you brought up Dublin. It feels like it was 10 years ago now.
It does.
What we've been through.
Yeah. Usually the season flies by. This was not a flyby season. This was a drag on season.
Because there was an Ohio State fan next to me the day before the game, and he was like, "Yeah, my wife's a null, so she dragged me to Dublin." I'm like, "Dragged you?" He's like, "Okay, it was awesome. You guys were so lucky you got to go." You guys, yeah. But all right, TJ, thank you. I appreciate you. Check out Double Fries No Slaw as always with him and Richie. And all of TJ's content, it's always gold.
Appreciate it, buddy.
Take care, buddy.
Take care.